You know, it's been pretty wonderful to jump into Bloodstained Ritual of the Night just as that Castlevania Anniversary Collection hit the market. I got them roughly around the same time, and I've been dipping my toes into both of them, actually, but I was able to review the Castlevania Anniversary Collection first. And when you jump into Bloodstained, which is Koji Igarashi's very famous Kickstarter game, which has taken a long time to get to us, there were some delays, and there was even that sort of 8-bit rendition that celebrated this game, the Bloodstained game that was out for different consoles not too long ago, which was pretty cool. When you jump from the early days of Castlevania into something like this, you can see that a couple of things. First of all, 2D game design is still incredibly valuable, incredibly important. That whole Metroidvania concept and conceit that so many games offer us is still incredibly enticing. It pulls us in, it's captivating, it's challenging, it's frustrating. All of these things that were true in the 80s are still true in 2019. And Bloodstained also, I think, capitalizes on all of the work that Igarashi and his teams were doing at Konami as they took the Castlevania series onto the Game Boy Advance and even through Symphony of the Night, as they sort of beefed up the core mechanics of Castlevania and made it much more of an action role-playing experience. You have a lot of expectations because this is, Igarashi parting ways with Konami and showing us what he's capable of on his own terms, taking the amount of time that he needed to get this thing just right for all of us. And so you sit down and you play it, and you're analyzing and sort of connecting the dots to the Castlevania franchise, because there's no way that you cannot. It looks like a Castlevania game, it plays like a Castlevania game, it smells like a Castlevania game. But it's a little bit different, and it's also a little bit more advanced in a lot of ways. I like the core mechanics and the systems that are in place within this game. They're very cool. You play a shardbinder named Miriam, who has to go up against other powerful beings and forces, as well as tons of demons and lots of creatures. You get caught up into this intrigue that's happening around this demonic castle, this possessed castle that's filled with all of these creepy crawly creatures. Some of them, come out of piles of goo. Of course, you're going to run into tons of bats, always bats. And then you're going to be, dealing with underwater creatures. You're going to be dealing with creatures that can hover and float. You're going to be dealing with giant kitty cats and giant puppy dogs and dragons and winged creatures and creatures that spit acid and fire. And what happens is, as you beat some of these creatures and demons and stuff, you also assume their powers. That's what that shardbinder descriptor means, is that you have this ability to assume some of the powers of these creatures, these magical creatures that you encounter, which get violently and dramatically injected into Miriam's body. And it looks like she's just going through hell. She's got stuff coming into her. You feel a little bit bad for her, but then all of a sudden she's got some more badass abilities. One of the first big bosses that you encounter is this giant tentacle beast, and you pick up the tentacle powers, and suddenly you have these massive tentacles that erupt out of the screen, and they just bash everybody that's in front of you. And it's very satisfying. And of course, all of that consumes your magic power. But then you can mix and match. You have the ability to go into the menu. You're in the menu a lot. You're also in the map a lot. This is a Metroidvania game. But in the menu, you can change out the outfit that you wear, the amount of armor that you have, the different types of weapons that you have. There's lots of single-handed blades, and there's maces, and there's spears, and there's great swords. There's a nice collection of different weaponry for you. But you can also go into your shard inventory, and the shard inventory breaks down in a bunch of different ways. You have basically 2 magic attacks that are at your disposal at any time. Some of them might be fireballs, or some of them might be giant tentacles, or I had this fleet of bats, because I love the bats. I'm cool with the bats. Even though Igarashi loves to throw the bats at us, I'm fine with the bats. You know me and bats. So I used the bats, and you can level up those shard powers as well. So there is this really nice, role-playing hook in there. But there's tons of different abilities. Ice abilities and water abilities, demon book abilities, and it's fun to play around with them and test them. And then, of course, what you can do is go back into the sort of safety zone where you've got comrades that will help you craft new things, help you prepare meals and things. There's a store, of course, where you can purchase a lot of stuff. You can upgrade your shards, and so your powers become much more substantial. You also have the ability to collect little allies that will fly around with you and dole out some damage alongside of you, and you also have manipulation shards, which allow you to deal with obstructions that might be in your way and use some magical powers to grab something and move it out of the way. And of course, you've got all kinds of different abilities that are unlocked the further further into the map that you can get that will help you with traversal and help you find all of these areas, which at first are, we know the drill. They appear to be blocked off. They appear to be impossible to get through or get around. And then, aha, you've defeated somebody, or you found this little chamber or something, and suddenly you have the ability to backtrack and go back in there. And that's the whole charm. And the way that you can backtrack is also really cool. You find these stained glass, I guess they're windows or portraits. You activate them and you can warp to each of the specific zones across the map. I played this game on the PlayStation 4. I haven't played it on the Switch, which I want to. I've heard that they've been having a little bit of struggles with some of the frame rates and stuff, but on the PlayStation 4, I played it on PS4 Pro, and it looked phenomenal. All of the lighting effects, the copious amounts of colors that bathe each of the environments. A lot of it is just like, the Gothic castle kind of vibe, but there's lots of beautiful gardens, and you're traipsing around castles, you're diving into the water. There's lots of movable statues and things, lots of stuff to destroy, lots of pieces of the environment. Of course, you're destroying tons and tons of torches and lamps and things. I don't know what the deal is with the Castlevania franchise. I'm kind of tying this to that franchise. Why no one can have a frickin' candle? No one can have any light source or a fire or any, you gotta whip that thing or shoot it or smash it with something, and then you'll get a little, in this case, it's a rose. You don't get the little heart things, but the rose gives you a little bit of that magic power. You're gonna consume a ton of magic power, and you're gonna be doing a lot of backtracking to the safe zone to buy some potions that will either heal you or cure you from, some poisoning or some kind of weird spell that you've got on you. The good news is that once you leave an area and come back, everybody is regenerated, so you've got this ability to collect money and magic powers and shards over and over again. So if you're finding any areas, which I did, I was just getting trounced by David Hayter is one of the characters in this game, and the first time I met David Hayter's character, he was just crushing me, and I was getting pissed off at David Hayter.
I will cut down all demons.
David, come on, we're buds, you can't do that. Anyways, I went back and I leveled up just by grinding a bit, and I went there. And there is a lot of grinding in the game, and there is a lot of I've been everywhere, I'm stuck, I don't know where, oh, there it is, You know the deal, where suddenly you've got this epiphanous, door creaks open and you go, oh my God, I figured it out, and then you're stuck for another 8 hours. This is a big, long game. It's a big, meaty game. It's a big, beautiful game, and you are going to be playing it for a very, very long time. I love the fact that the costuming and you can change the haircuts, and there's a lot of customization that you can do to Miriam. I love that. I love that you can put different masks on her and different ears on her and different scarves, and it's just we've had so many of these action role-playing games and role-playing games in the past where you collect all of these different costume bits, and the dev team, just for whatever reason, mostly the expenditures of hiring the people to make all that art change, but for whatever reason, you do all of this stuff with your equipment, and then you wouldn't see it portrayed on screen. In this case, everything that you do is fully realized on screen, and I love that. And I love that this is so harkening back to the old school style of Metroidvania kind of design, but it's got all of these little nice modern touches to it. That's, I think, the statement of Bloodstained, is that these games have real power. And if you guys could remember, back in the mid-90s, there was a real concerted effort to kill 2D. It was like the Kylo Ren, we have to kill our past kind of thing, where we can't have 2D games. And Konami and the Castlevania team did whatever they could to get Castlevania Symphony of the Night out there, and it became a classic that we still talk about to this day. That and all of the previous work really inspired a lot of incredible future work.
All that is in the past.
That is one of the challenges of Bloodstained as well. It does two things. It solidifies that it's not a genre. This style of game is vital and valuable and still worth pursuing and worth enjoying today and for every day forward. But it also has opened the door to lots and lots of variations of a theme. There are more than enough Metroidvania experiences out there. And so there's an inescapable been there, done that vibe about this game. And it's not like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that. It doesn't ever present itself like that. Did it detract from my enjoyment of it or my obsession with it or my addiction to it? No, it did not. I was fully on board with all of this. I love the music, I love the art, I love the mechanics and the systems. I love the surprises and the challenge. I would say that fighting the creatures, they felt more like just obstacles and less like real fights and enemy, you know, and even the boss fights weren't that engaging or that mind-blowing, but they were fun, and it was so fun to power up and level up and to build my munitions and to handle some of the side quests and get the benefits of that and craft my new weapons or my new potions and find ways to kind of figure out the intricacies of the game and to beat the game. It's just fun to play this thing. It kind of reminded me of playing Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS, which I was also incredibly addicted to and thought it was just a wonderful homage. And it really makes me crave more 2D Metroid games. And it also makes me crave, you know, sort of the next evolution of whatever becomes of Castlevania. And honestly, I would love a sequel to Bloodstained as well. I think as crowded as the field is, as many excellent choices as we have with this style of game, this still is worth your money and it's worth your time. Koji Igarashi and his team have built us something really quite wonderful here. And I hope that the Switch version of the game gets patched and improves and people are super happy with it. If you are playing the Switch version of the game, let me know in the comments below how it's running for you. I definitely do want to get a copy of that so I can check it out, but I really enjoyed my time with Bloodstained. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.